Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Toolbox Talks on the SciShed podcast. My name is Matt Jones, and you are joining us today for a slightly different format. Now, of course, if you're hearing this in audio format, then it probably won't make any difference. However, this is actually also a screen share. And the reason that we did this one as a screen share is because today we are talking about an amazing meeting framework, and we're actually walking through a step-by-step process by my man, Mr. Al Levy from the 7 Power Contractor. Now, this meeting framework, guys, has come from his book, The 7 Power Contractor, which I'm holding up at the screen at the moment. However, for those of you that are listening, you will not be able to see it. But I do encourage you guys very strongly to head across to the show notes where you can get the links to the book. You can listen to it in audio book if you prefer. However, it is an amazing book. It's super thin, so it will not take you long to get through. And I was just tearing nuggets of gold out of this thing. It was incredible. So I really encourage you guys to get across there and get a hold of it. Now, as I said, the part that we're talking about today is a part that was extremely relevant to me where I am in my business, and that's running productive meetings. So we went through an entire framework, which is also going to be available to you guys within the show notes. So head across there, get hold of that, and then go read the book, because then it will all make sense after you do. But anyway, I want you to do me a favor. If you enjoy that book, if you enjoy this podcast, and if you get something out of it, I want you to do two things. First of all, I'm going to ask you for a review. Please head across to iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or if you're watching this on YouTube or Vimeo, leave us a review, please, or Facebook for that matter. Secondly, if you think that somebody's going to get value out of this, which I know you are going to, I'm going to ask you to please share it with them. So whatever that means, you can tag them in a post, you can share it to their wall or whatever it is. You can send it to them through iTunes, whatever you want to do, just please send it along. So I'm asking for two things. One is a review, and the second one is for you to share it. And that's all I'm asking. So get out there, get the book. It is awesome. Go get the Meeting Manifesto, which you'll be able to get through the show notes across at thesiteshed.com. And apart from that, that's all from me. So let's rock and roll. Enjoy. We're on. Al Levy, welcome back to the SciShed.
Welcome. Thank you. I was telling Matt before, the reason that you have not seen this beautiful face is because when I met Matt, he said I have a face for radio and podcasts. I think he meant it as a compliment. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a very endearing compliment here in Australia.
Yes, very nice.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, Al, welcome back to the show. For the listeners out there that are not familiar with you, of course, you have been on the podcast a number of times, and every time you seem to break the internet with awesomeness. So thanks for joining us back on the show.
My pleasure.
The reason that we're speaking today is because I don't know how you did it. It's some sort of witchcraft on your behalf, but you managed to somehow completely remove a book from my shelf, rewrite it, stick it back on there in the space of 6 months, because I read this book of yours about that time ago, 6 months, and I loved it. But then I went back and reread it about a week, 2 weeks ago, and I haven't been able to put it down. I've absolutely highlighted the heck out of it. I've taken notes everywhere. I've gone and built Google Sheets off the stuff that I've learned from it and all this kind of crazy stuff. So I don't know how you've managed to do that, but I've certainly got to say this book is absolutely amazing. If any of you guys out there that have not read The 7 Power Contractor from Al Levy, you need to get out there and you need to read that straight away. And there's going to be some links to Amazon within the show notes there where you can go and get it. Al, how did you do that, man? I mean, it's a testament to book reading, isn't it? Like, you can read it once, but you need to go back and read it again. Otherwise you'll
I really appreciate the compliment. But for myself too, there were a couple of seminal books that I read. And one of them was E-Myth by Michael Gerber years ago. And the more I read it, the more deep I could let it sink in on me. And I defy anybody to read Ellen Rohr's book, Where Did the Money Go? Enough. As contractors, it's the most important book that you will read to talk about where does the money go. You can do the work and hope the money comes, and that's not likely to happen.
It's pretty much it's a pretty safe bet that anything from Ellen should be consumed, I would say.
Yeah, it's just great stuff. And, she really embodies her spirit, but it's just a great read. I tell you, I know I'm going to talk about my book, but I have to tell you, one of the things I hated before I had met Ellen was that I'd asked an accountant for what's this term mean? and they give me another stupid accountant term that I
Oh
wouldn't
yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
And I told Ellen when I met her all those years ago is your book for the glossary alone was worth the money.
Yeah.
I said,
Right.
because finally I got an answer, like in plain English, what these terms meant, which you have to know. And you have to learn to read a, you know, we're not going to be accountants and we
No,
shouldn't be. It's
exactly.
not what we are doing. We're contractors. But at the end, we got to know how to count the money. We got to know how to make the money. And so that's really good. So one of the things is the 7 powers. My family was a serial entrepreneurs. We had ice cream stores, we had liquor shops, we had real multi-state real estate. We owned a radiant heat company. We owned a computer software business. But plumbing, heating, cooling, electric was the main business for us. But my dad used to tell me all the time, people love to tell you their businesses are different. He says they're about that
Right.
different. There's like the 7 things you have to do: planning, operations, staffing, sales coaching, marketing, financial. And I'm lucky enough that Ellen handles the financial. I know my financials, by the way, but it bores me to death.
Yeah.
That said, you got to know them, man. You got to
Yeah.
know it. But my thing, what I love is planning, operations, staffing, and sales in particular. Those marketing are my 5 favorites of the
So
7. I know you pick your kids, but I did. I told you what my 5 favorite are.
there you go. And so I know of late within our community and with a lot of the stuff we're doing at Tradie Web Guys and the Site Shared and Tradie Mate Pro, it's really heavily geared around systems, processes, and all this kind of stuff, which I know you're mad for. And then even more so, we've been putting a lot of emphasis on organizational structure, an org chart, and organization departments, because then you can define your roles, and then you can define your responsibilities and all this kind of stuff. And when I went through and reread this book, I was like, holy shit, Al's like talking about everything that I'm learning right now. This is just so amazing. But I suppose back then when I read it the first time, I wasn't really in that headspace. So then I read it again and I was like, this is just, it's like the Bible.
Yep. It's kind of like the expression when the student's ready, the teacher shows. Um, I will tell you, by the way, not again to plug the book, but I have some great bonus material.
Right.
When you get to the bonus link, I have an organizational chart that I have used from the smallest of companies
Yeah.
to the biggest of companies. I'm talking 85 million, that kind of companies, and they run off that org chart. And people think they're small. I don't need it. You will always be small
Yeah.
until you create an organizational chart and figure out what goes in those boxes.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the key thing here.
Because what I'm finding at the moment, Al, is that pretty much everything stems down from that org chart. There's no point in going and, creating systems and processes on roles and responsibilities that don't exist within an org chart. Like it's just, you're trying to run before you can walk kind of thing.
There's nothing to hang it on. And,
Right.
do I have time to share a quick story?
Hell yeah. It's your show, man. Do what you want.
So we didn't have an org chart years ago. I started out at my grandfather's gas station, and then my dad and my uncle got together and went off and did the other part of the business. And then my brothers and I showed up, and there was really just go work, do something, right? And so later on, the company, that was kind of the format. It was just a madhouse, and especially New York madhouse, right? So it's shocking. I was like, I'm sitting there at the dispatch desk, and it's like 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. And I get a phone call from one of the suppliers and goes, Al, I know you might have overlooked the bill and it hasn't been paid. Well, I got to tell you, Matt, my dad raised us as you run to give your money to the suppliers.
Right.
He says, because when push comes to shove, they will remember and take care of you, which,
Yeah.
by the way, he was right on about that. That is so true. But the point of it is, so I went over to the accounts payable person and go, I started yelling at him. And my brother Marty, who's the financial guy, had to come in and walk him off the roof. So Marty's in earlier than me, like 6 a.m. And he gets a call from an angry customer about a callback. We have to go back and do service there. And he starts ripping into the service manager. And I walk into the dispatch area. And now I have to walk him off the roof. And so I just looked at him, and this is the tone of it, picture this tone. And I said, you know what, Marty? you don't know anything about service. You got a problem, you see me and I will make sure it's right. He says, well, you don't know anything about money or finances. So if you got a problem, you go see me. And the two of us that's where we draw up the org chart, where whose responsibility was to take care of the accounts receivable, accounts payable, service department. My brother Richie was also involved. Before that, we were so busy micromanaging every little thing that each other were doing. I have more stupidity, which I'm happy to share with you.
I'm sure. Carry away.
Yes. So one of the stupidity things was insurance was really big in New York, in the trucking, and of course, it's the cases of plumbing, heating, cooling. It's there's a lot of insurance things, so it was always a big line expense for us. So Richie would go out and get 3 bids. Al would go out and get 3 insurance bids, and Marty would go out to get 3 insurance bids. And we had no time. This is just crazy. So finally, one day we looked at the org chart and go, "Hey, Marty, this is your box. You go get the org chart. You get 3 insurance bids. Come back and present it to us." And what a big time saver that was, and obviously way more effective.
Right.
Because we didn't know the activities that go on in the box. Now, I'm not talking about org chart where you have CEO, CFO, CIO, CIT, all the crazy things that they name these days. This isn't an ego chart.
Right.
This is the boxes it takes to run your company.
Yeah.
And then you can write the manuals, which is one, by the way, my next program that's coming up is that I am going to be sharing the manuals in a way that I never did before. And thanks in part to people like Matt nudging me to do that will be coming available. But
that's great.
I have to tell you, one of the other things that we're going to get to, Matt, is until we had an org chart, what was the purpose of a meeting? Because we just talk. We would, it was wasted.
Right.
But once you have org chart and you have manuals, and then this really gets good. It gets really good if you run good, tight meetings, which I want to share with everybody.
Yeah.
Because here's what I know out there. You hate meetings.
So I suppose that's the perfect segue, because I reached out to you. I was having some issues with meetings within our organization. We've got a lot of people a part of Trading My Pro. We're trying to run these meetings, and I was just turning into a bit of a disaster. And so I'd literally just gone through that part of your book, and I remember I rang you from down the beach. And I was like, "Al, I need help with meetings, man. What's the go?" And you very kindly forwarded me your guide to more productive meetings, which we're going to run through here. Now, I just want to clarify as well, guys. First of all, go and read the book, because the way the book has been designed is it breaks all these things down into sections. What we're talking about today is one specific section of the book. So it will make more sense to you, and it will probably resonate a little bit stronger if you take it in that order. However, today we're going to be talking about this little guy here. So I will bring that onto the screen so we can all see it. So this is the 7 Power Contractor Guide to More Productive Meetings. And yeah, I guess so the reason that I was reaching out to you was, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners out there may appreciate, or maybe in a similar scenario, by where they they're running meetings, but they're running them for the sake of running meetings, and they may not be as productive. They might not have the outcome they want. They may not be structured. It might be a scenario where you leave after a meeting and you think, well, that's great. What do we actually achieve here? What's actionable from this? So I've got to say that this whole manifesto, as you call it, Al, it really brought things into reality for me. And as a result, I went and created that Google Doc with this amazing meeting structure, which we've been implementing ever since, by the way, Al, and it's been fantastic. And the feedback that we've got,
so happy to hear that.
The feedback that I've been getting is just like, this is the best meeting structure I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, oh yeah, what? I just came up with that. That's my thing.
You're welcome to wrap yourself in it, Matt.
Right.
I will tell you, let's go back up though. But here's what I said about it. I know why you hate meetings. The reason we hate meetings, Matt, is because, we've been to these meetings at our local house of worship. We've been to these meetings at our local, government things. And it's a meeting to eat a donut, drink coffee, to talk about stuff you talked about the last time that you're going to talk about the next time, because nobody has the guts to really do anything. Mm-hmm. or the meetings that Richie and I, we never had meetings with guys because we thought we didn't have time, but we had plenty of time to run around with our head chopped off.
Right.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Richie would let it go. And then in the middle of the night, 2 a.m., he and I are the last tech stand, and we're in the office, and he goes, we need a meeting. I go, why is that, Richie? Because this guy did something, and now we should write a meeting agenda. And the agenda is just, so long, because now we've stacked up everything that you did wrong in the last 6 months, and we're going to get it straight in this meeting. And since everybody hates to come to those meetings, we had no agenda, it was total hijack, and everybody hates it, but that's not what we're speaking to here. Now this is a pretty big size guide, so
right.
It's not meant to be, read it 1 through page 19, don't freak out.
Yeah.
So there's 10 things, and we'll unpack it a little bit for you.
Yeah, exactly right. And for the guys out there, I mean, obviously, I suppose the bottom line is having structure and consistency within meetings, and following a framework will help you get a better result. And what Al's created here is an amazing framework. So how do you want to run this out? Do you want to just take it away, or do you want me to
let's take a look at the 10 big things that they need to know. So let's roll down through that a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. So this just talks about, why you hate meetings, which I was just sharing. This is meeting 1, which is the first big thing is figure out who needs to attend this meeting. Why are these people in the seats? Mm-hmm. And if you don't know that, don't have them at the meeting. Don't have, we don't want to hurt Matt's feelings if he doesn't come to the meeting. Get over it. The only people that are supposed to be in the meeting that it affects those people. So for instance, there's a problem with taking phone calls. The CSRs, customer service reps, have to be in that meeting, and whoever manages the customer service reps, they have to be in there. They have to listen to calls. There's things that you have to do. You have to be structured. Mm-hmm. I usually find that meetings get out of control once they're over 10 people. Now you might push it to 15, and if you have a big company, so what do? What I used to do, I had multiple meetings. I ran a meeting Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon, because when you go with a really giant sized group, everybody sits there and goes, this has got nothing to do with me. This is because Matt messed up. Right. I'm here because of Matt. And so everybody is
likely.
Yeah. So it's gotta be, a tight meeting. And then, what is their reason for sitting in the chair? What are you hoping to accomplish? So what I call the, with them. What is it that you want to be able to do?
Yeah.
I also think what happens is, again, having remembered from the days where, we never had meetings. So now we were going to just talk to them for 5 hours as if that would be effective. So short meetings.
At them.
Talk at them. Yes. Short meetings done regularly beat long meetings once in a while. Definitely. So that's really kind of the key thing here is there's got to be a thing. There are other things that are really important, but I think the key thing is before you go into a meeting, what are the 3 things that you want them to take away from the meeting? Now, if you really get good at this, now this is higher level, is so whenever I run a meeting, I'm going to talk about the 3 things that we're going to do. I'm going to unpack those 3 things. And at the end of the meeting, I'm going to go around and go, so Matt, what's one of the 3 things we should take away from this meeting?
Right.
Because when they talk, they listen.
Yeah.
When you talk, it's like this. They just kind of hear it. And so that's really big.
So does that tie into the agenda?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You gotta tie your agenda back to it, and you gotta stay on topic. So the one I always like to, go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say, I found that's been very powerful. Like having an agenda has really kept the meeting on track, and it's meant that, okay, listen, guys, we're going to talk about these things today. If there's anything else you want to pop up, we'll stick it in the next meeting agenda, but we need to stay focused on this because we've only got 20 minutes.
That's excellent. And so there's a begin and an end time, and you have to start on time.
Yeah.
Because people are in the room, and you let somebody come in that hasn't come in on time, you tell everybody there they're an idiot for being on time. And so respecting the power of the meetings, actually one of my clients who is now my franchise partner, the way he took control of his company years ago was he insisted on starting the meetings on time as I had taught him to do. So a guy was walking in, it was late, he kicked the door closed on him. He came outside, and the guy goes, he said, stop, read the manual. What does it say about what time this meeting is? The guy read it out loud again, because words that come from your lips, you listen. The next meeting, he was there 15 minutes early. And from then on, you'd be shocked of taking control of some small things can make a monstrous difference. That's why I'm so excited. I mean, I hated meetings to where I know the super value of well-run meetings.
Yeah.
So pick the 3 things that you want, and that's what Matt's talking about, the agenda. So I'll do a little role play with Matt. This is pretty typical. So we're talking about, where you should park your truck at the shop. With a specific spot, and when you unload, and when you do all that stuff. And Matt puts his hand up and goes, I got a question. What's your question, Matt? Is, where do I get my uniform fixed?
Right.
So this is where they hijack your meeting. And I go, Matt, that's a great question. But today the agenda is about parking. So if you'd like to stay later, we'll talk about the uniforms. And if I know it's in the manual about your uniform, I'm going to stop at the end of the meeting and make you read it out loud.
Yeah.
That's kind of the key thing. So I like that. I like that a lot. And I think you will find if you have a tight agenda, start on time. Here's the other thing. I don't care how great this meeting is. Everybody's engaged. It's really wonderful. And you decide to violate the second bad thing, which is the end time.
Right.
You have to end on time. So normally what I tell people is, if you're the person running the meeting, which there should always be a meeting coach or a person who's in charge of that meeting, they should be sitting at a place that only they can see the clock, so that they know that they start on time, they know that they're ending on time. People at the meeting are not, necessarily to look at that. Matt, you were rolling down to that. So this is really kind of one of the things about, being really clear about it. I will tell you, I spent $100,000 on my manuals, which I'm sure I've shared with people before here, back in '96, and it was well worth it. Within 2 years, we paid for it. But the purpose of this story is, so it's a really cold day. We're in the heating business. I'm in the front of the room going through the manuals in this meeting with the guys. And my brother Marty's in the back of the thing going like this, tapping his watch. Nobody sees him. I finish up my meeting and I say, Marty, come outside with me. I said, don't ever do that again. Because here's what I can tell you. Every time I have them in a meeting, their sales go up, their callbacks go down, and their technical performance gets better. Now you tell me, where's a better spent time than that? And there is no answer to that. And to Marty's credit, he never did it again.
Yeah.
But I don't care, unless the building's on fire, God forbid. That meeting happens. It happens all the time, and people know to get there. And you will be surprised. Now, again, they need to be participants, because we don't, like Matt mentioned, because you don't want to be talking at people the whole time. So if you have a written resource, have them read it out loud.
And that's probably another reason why I suppose you typically want to keep meetings relatively within 10 people. If you've got 15, 20 people and they're all trying to be engaged, then it's basically like a screaming battle, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So is this going to tie into, well, actually, let's just keep going. Why don't we?
I think just so the rules is good, which is somebody at the front of this meeting. So if I'm the head of the CSRs, I would typically be the meeting coach.
Yeah.
And then I'd have this authority to run the meeting, keep it on track. So if something's going pretty good and I think it's serving and we're staying on point, I'm going to let it go a little bit.
Yeah.
And then if I see this, I have to watch and I just do this. I'm out. You know what? That's a great point. I'm going to make a note of it. And then we're going to talk a little bit, because obviously we need a little more time. In the interest of time, let's move on to a little further on the agenda, so we don't, flame out at that point and really lose our momentum.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important to have a meeting coach. And there are a couple of good tips for doing that. All meetings, which Matt and I were talking about, you have to have a written agenda. And my recommendation is it's a half a page to a page tops.
Oh yeah.
Of which start with, if the meeting went well, what 3 things did they take away from the meeting? So start with the end in mind.
Yeah.
That makes a big difference.
I've actually been following your advice on that as well, and keeping them all to within 3 to 4 points for each meeting with maybe a hand, 2 or 3 subheadings for each of them, but keeping them very strict within the that 2 to 3 point, and then anything
It's
else goes in the next meeting.
yes, yeah. And again, short, frequent meetings beat these long
Right.
ones if nothing gets to it.
And the thing
Roll it
is,
down to, roll on to 3 here because I want to share a little bit. So this is just an agenda.
yeah,
Yeah. Someone other than you, though, because if you're really engaged with
yeah,
everybody,
yeah,
somebody has to be taking notes.
right,
Now, they're not writing word for word. This is not a court stenographer, but they're reading the words and they're writing them down because if you take 10 people to a meeting, they will have heard 10 different things
right,
because we listen through our filters. So the idea is just to highlight these 3 things. Now, it's basically your agenda
yeah,
just turned into notes.
right,
And people sign off on those notes because now if you make them sign off or initial, and you can do it electronically, we don't need to use paper necessarily for this, but then they know there's a accountability for these meetings, which is really, really, it starts to turn it on its ear.
yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed that as well. That makes a big difference. Sorry, cut you off there, Matt. What were you going to share?
I can't remember.
That's good. I'll keep
Yeah,
going.
yeah. Keep going.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So someone other than you taking the notes, and that's a good sample of the notes. Number 4 here is
We've
meetings.
done
And we
that.
were talking about that time again. The fewer the people of the meeting, the better. Good, limited discussion. 3 main points. The meeting sacred, not to be disturbed. Marty. Short meetings held frequently, not like what Richie used to like to do.
Yeah,
And here's a good one. How you arrange the seating is really good. So if it's a teaching session, then you can use what I call classroom style.
yeah,
So there are tables and you're at the front at a podium having a teaching session going on, and you can have a whiteboard, you can have the computer projection, whatever you think you need to keep it interesting. Talk gets a little boring. So if you
right,
can bring in the media, it really does help. Um, if it's a discussion, so everybody's equal. So if I'm up front at the podium and you're down in those classroom seats, I'm in charge, clearly. But if we sit in either a square or a round table, then this is meant to be a discussion and very participatory.
yeah.
Yep.
I
I
was
will
also,
give you a quick tip on that though.
yeah,
Don't pick people in order because it tells the last person I don't have to pay attention till you get to me. So hopscotch your way around for participation.
So for a lot of the guys, and myself in particular, the meetings typically don't take place in an office location. They're online like we are now. They're a Zoom meeting.
Yes, yes.
Is there any right or wrongs in regard to? You can't seat people on a Zoom meeting, right? You've just got to be there.
It's very funny. For years before GoToMeeting and all this more video has come available, I can tell when people are tuning out. I can hear the stuff in the background and I go, did you have to take that call right now?
Yeah.
And people go like, do you have it? So you can tell the communication. I do love the visual aspect of it, all kidding aside, because 70% of our communication is nonverbal,
Mm-hmm.
not my talking. It's, my expression, how I move my head, my, eye roll, those kinds of things really tell a lot into the conversation. So the video thing is really good, but it doesn't change.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's in charge of that meeting. Somebody's keeping it on track. Somebody's staying on the agenda. Somebody's taking notes, and we're going around the room. So I have a big garage door company that's in 10 states in the United States here. They're up to 30 million in sales already. They're really going places. But we have a, stand up on our feet meeting. We go around the room and we don't go in order. We do everything that's in here. We do the exact same thing online in a virtual environment.
Yeah, well. All right, cool. So what else have we got? The last one there.
Yep, the quality of the meeting. So
Oh,
you can tell me, you can tell me your meeting's really important, but then you put me on a broken chair with
right.
no air conditioning or no heating, and the lights are blinking in the background. How important is your meeting? So if you're going to find a meeting room, and it doesn't have to be, it depends if you're using it as a training room. Usually I recommend for 15 people, about 15 by 20 is a good sized meeting room. Don't have to have a very fancy floor. You can put down linoleum, tile, whatever you want to do. These tables out here, they're plastic basically, but they're good And then the chairs, it depends on how long your meeting is. I recommend 30-minute, 1 hour. Training sessions, 2 hours, 4 hours. That's different training sessions. Anything more than 4 hours of training, the adage that has always been for trainers is the mind can only absorb what the butt can stand.
Right.
And if you go past that, you're wasting your time. You're just wasting your time.
Yeah, yeah. All right, cool. So scrolling down then, do you want to talk a little bit about the types and
Yeah,
frequency?
I do want to talk about some of these meetings. So one of the meetings, and this is Ellen and I put this together years ago for our mutual, we call Power Partners. And so the meeting with you is just what it says.
Mm-hmm.
I have a top 5, and Matt's heard me talk about the top 5. So there's a master project list of 100, 125 things that you're going to get done in the next 3 to 5 years. And then you boil it down to your top 30, which is either going to fix your biggest problem or challenge or greatest chance to grow and be profitable. And that's 1 year. And then you sort it again using those same filters down to your 5 that you're working on. So every week, no matter how crazy your week is, you said that these 5 things would make the biggest impact, solve the biggest problem or challenge, or greatest chance of growing profitable. So there is nothing that you can do all week that will be more important than that. But life hits you, right? So this meeting with you, mine is on Sunday. Every Sunday, I have a recurring appointment in my Outlook. And in that meeting with me, my top 5 are there. My goal for 7 Power Contract is there. How I'm going to create that money, who I'm going to be working with. I really take the time to have written it out, and I edit it each time, including where my clients are, what do I need to do, some other work that I have to get out, so all of it is there. It is 2 things. It's kind of like GPS in that you're a little off and it helps you drive back to where you said you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you, everybody that I've trained to do this meeting with you, they do not skip a week. Now, if you're always waiting to your meeting with you to work on your top 5, stop and ask yourself why.
Right.
Once in a while, I will do that. I will tell you, Matt, we all have a crazy week, but if it's every week and you don't look and do anything on your top 5, you've got to rededicate yourself. You've got to build some time in your calendar because that's where time is created.
Yep.
If you don't block out time in your calendar, then you're not ever going to get it done. So that's what the meeting with you is really about.
Mm-hmm.
The daily schedule meeting is stuff happens, right? You have an install and there's no installer today. You have service calls and there's no service guys. The CSR is out of the office today. Stuff happens. So this daily meeting, you're on your feet, no sitting down for this meeting. This is okay, who's here, who's there, what can we cancel, what can we move? So typically I have, the service manager, the install manager, the key people there want to know what it is. And we just do what we call triage, like an emergency room, if you will. That's what that meeting's about.
Okay.
The service tech get it sold meeting is all of the service techs. So their job is to talk to customers, make good recommendations, do operationally keep the place neat and clean, and also do the good technical work. So where does that get taught and where does it get trained? Every week they're coming to a meeting. So if you track sales, and I hope you do, they come and see how they did. There's no reason for us to do homework if mom and dad are never going to look at it, is there?
Right. And so that one's a weekly meeting?
A weekly meeting every
Yeah.
week. There's no reason that they shouldn't know where they are. Look, if you bowl or an American football or whatever sport you play, golf.
Neither, mate. We're in Australia.
Australian rules football.
There you go.
Yeah, Australian rules football. You do play golf. You got to keep score, and it's not a bad thing. Nobody's but there is accountability, but it's not a sales meeting alone. Sales, operational behavior, and technical. And of course, if you have manuals and you have training and you have a training center, this all gets better.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what the service tech meeting is about, is, how do we do? And then that's really kind of, then the number 4 is the individual coaching, which is, so there's a group session, but how did I do this week? And so you look at my stats, whoever I report to, my field supervisor or service manager, and this is your opportunity to tell me did good, did bad. Now, it's not a beat up session because that's no fun to go to on a regular thing. and just say, Al, what's the one thing you could do next week based on these stats that could be better? So my closing rate might be higher. My average ticket could be better. There's a couple of different things. Am I offering a planned maintenance agreement? Which is in all of this is in the customer's best interest.
And so is that,
I recommend is customer best interest.
at the risk of asking a dumb question here, is that individual service tech coaching meeting, is that like a one-on-one, or can that be done in a group environment?
No, the service tech get it sold meeting is the group.
Right.
And then when that's over, they go off and have an individual 5-minute meeting.
Okay.
5 minutes. 5 minutes you're spending with me. And now, of course, like Service Titan and many of these other softwares are tracking the key stats. Do yourself a favor. Don't have 50 freaking stats. There are 4, maybe 5 key stats that make all the difference, like conversion rate that I was talking about, your average ticket, callback ratio, which is how many calls did you go on and how many of them bounce back. Now, when I say bounce back, that could be for a couple of reasons. You sold it yesterday. Today, they're calling to complain about the price. You didn't build the value. They're not complaining about the price and the heat works, but you decided you didn't want to wear those shoe covers, so there's mud all over their white carpet. That's operational. Right. And technical is, I have no heat again today. That's an issue. So those would be reasons that we would look at your callback ratio.
Okay.
Those that I like are my key stats.
Okay, so then the CSR, DSR.
Yep, they're answering the phones, they're dispatching, and in our particular case, they have a CSR manual, they have a dispatcher manual, and if so, they just take turns going around the table with the manuals. Also, you know, Matt, people do not know what they sound like when they're on the phone.
Right.
So I do this routine, which is New Yorkers, you know, we had a long script, and New Yorkers have a millisecond of attention. So like we could say, you know, good morning, it's OSI, wonderful day. And, you know, they go, boom, they shut you right down.
Right.
So I came up with, you know, good morning, Al speaking, OSI, how may I help you? Or, you know, it was good morning, company specialist, Al speaking, how may I help you? And then I would do it this way is, good morning, comfort specialist, how can I help you? Same words, right? Same words. So, but the point of it is, they think they handled that customer complaint really well, but you don't know what you sound like when you're in the middle of it. So
right.
The recording of phone calls, which of course software makes so much easier these days,
right.
That's one of the things that you would do at a CSR dispatcher meeting. Dispatcher meeting would talk about is, you know, where are we having some issues? Al always wants to go home at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, that's nice for Al, but not for, you know, everybody else who has to stay out late and cover the calls. So there are some things that we do in these kinds of meetings, but
and is that a weekly?
That is a weekly meeting.
Yep.
Again, these could be short meetings.
Okay.
And in these agendas I have that I shared with you in this thing about what a typical length for those meetings are.
Okay.
There's plenty to discuss.
Yeah.
Here's what I think about CSRs, just so we're really clear. You, Mr. Marketing Manager Matt, is phenomenal at getting our phones to ring off the hook. And I, Al, hate customers, and I'm a customer service rep. So you are filling the bathtub with calls, and I have the drain wide open. So you have to work with your CSRs, your customer service reps, all the time, and your dispatchers. Because here's the other thing: dispatchers, everywhere I've ever been, Matt, think they're the boss of the techs.
Oh yeah.
Techs think they're the boss of the dispatchers, and they're both wrong. When you guys get the org chart, buy my book, you get the org chart, you will see that neither one of them are bosses. Their job, if they have a dispatcher has a problem with the techs, their job is to bring it to the service manager's attention. Yeah. And if the techs are having a problem with an abusive dispatcher, their job is to bring it to, and then the service manager gets everybody in the room and gets this resolved. We got to work as a team. So marketing manager meeting. So in charge of the marketing manager, there's a marketing manual, and there are things that you need to be doing, which is, for me, is the right amount of calls from the right customer at the right time. In a nutshell, that is what a marketing manager is all about. That's what they have to be doing. And I believe, as does Ellen, that an owner, no matter how big your company is, you never really get to leave the marketing manager. It's too important.
Yeah. I remember reading, actually, I think I highlighted that in the book as well. I remember you talking about that specifically. I think it was when you were talking about how your you hired your dad's colleague to do the marketing when you rebranded and all this sort of stuff.
Yep, Leo. Yep.
The first rule is you don't question me or something like that.
Yeah. Rule 1, don't question Leo. Number 2 is when you think to question Leo, don't. So, but he was great. He taught me so much about marketing.
Yeah.
And really, and to me, so the guys out there, sales and marketing are two sides of the same coin.
Right.
And it's kind of like, we always have this discussion about chicken and the egg, Matt. So Ellen, years ago, we just we love talking about business. And Ellen just said to me, so what comes first, marketing or sales? And I said, sales. She goes, well, if the phone doesn't ring, I go, whoa, whoa, whoa. If I don't know what makes Matt, my ideal customer, tick and how I can reach that person when I'm face to face, my chances of finding 100, 1,000, 1,000,000 Matts is minimalized. So the better you are at sales, in my belief, the better you are at understanding what your marketing message is and how to target market. And of course, today's technology just makes that so great.
Right.
Because you can do so many great things.
Yeah.
Sorry for going off of I like marketing, as you can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the installer get it done meeting, that is, just so we're clear about install, is somebody else sold it. Now I'm coming to do it. So you sold the water heater, I'm coming to install it. You sold the boiler, the furnace, I'm coming to do it. You sold the air conditioners, I'm coming to do it. My job is to bring the job in on time and on budget for materials. And then if I do that, typically in our case, we give them some reward. But, well, again, there's a scorecard for this. Otherwise, what's the consequences for not hitting the target and the parameters? So we talk about, typically what went right this week, celebrate. What went wrong, let's fix it. And then what do we have to look ahead? So here's my story about looking ahead. We never looked ahead, Matt. Never looked ahead. And magically, Monday would be crazy busy, not enough guys, or it was dead. And now what do we do with ourselves? So the other thing was, in rooftop units where they have to have a crane to lift them up on the top.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it's nobody's job, then either nobody does it or two people order the crane. So we would have no cranes or two cranes on a job. Both are bad scenarios. Right. So this installer get it done meeting was a great opportunity for us to find out, where is the Rigid 300? Where's the Pro Press? Where are the things that we need to get staged out for that job? That's what this really takes install to such a better level. Because I looked at, again, it's very funny. Richie and I had a conversation, again, one of these crazy nights when the two of us are left standing. And I just said, Richie, I don't need any more practice at install. I'm really good at it. I can sell it really good. You know what? I like to make money at install. And this is where that became is, we just started to talk about. So we project material and labor versus actual material and labor. Did we win? And that's really so big. And you would think everybody has a grasp of this, Matt. They don't. And then if they do, they don't do a good job of letting the installers successfully win and do this job right. So that's the big thing.
Is that meeting typically with the installers? Would that be with the dispatch or the service manager or something? Like who's that meeting with?
The installers are typically run by an install manager, depending on how many installers you run.
And so that'd be operations, yeah?
Yeah. So here's a rule of thumb. Typically, if you run 3 crews a day, you probably only need an install field supervisor for that.
Right.
That means they work in the field. By the time you get to 5 crews a day, you're going to need a manager. It just becomes too much to manage the schedule and things of that nature, and training.
Yeah.
Because obviously you want to be doing training as well. That's big.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Does that cover it?
Yeah. No, I'm with you. System engineer.
Yeah, in America, yeah. So we're not allowed to call ourselves salespeople anymore.
Oh.
Dirty word.
Okay.
So we became system engineers, comfort advisors, system advisors, whatever name you want to pick. Basically, it's a big ticket salesperson.
Right.
So this is selling the bigger stuff. And those two, so a system engineer years ago proved to me that they could bring me all the dollars I wanted and I could go broke.
Right.
If you're just going to charge on dollars, then they can sell it as cheap as they want or not figure enough. So I changed the equation to so many closed. So you get 10 opportunities, Matt. You got to close 5 of them. There's an average ticket. And then the jobs that you sold have a projected material and labor and a gross profit. And then the installer has got to bring that job in on time for the, the material and labor that you had figured. And did we win? So it's what I call 7 out of 10 jobs going green. Green is hit those limits. Now people go, well, I could do better than that. I'm going to defy you. You go prove that to me first. Here's what I can tell you. If you could hit 7 out of 10, the way I just described, you're going to make money.
You're a rock star. Yeah. I was just curious, while we're on that, it's a bit of a segue, but is one of the metrics that you would incorporate into that specific role, so the upsell guy or whatever, the big ticket sales guy,
yep.
Is one of the metrics, does one of them revolve around like customer feedback and satisfaction? Because I know I've worked in...
Yes. That's a great point. And same thing, by the way, for service techs too, is online reviews are the lifeblood these days. Now, I still like, for big ticket sales, if I've done a great job of, selling you a furnace or an air conditioner, heating system, a new plumbing, bathroom that you love, my job is to say, you know what, in 2 weeks, I'm going to be back. Matt, when we get done, I'm going to make sure everything is the way I promised it would be. And at that time, I'm going to hope that you're so satisfied, you'll be willing to do a short video or take a picture and testimonial for me so I can share this with other people. Mm-hmm. And you'd be surprised how many people will do that. Yeah. Now, that does not trump out the, online reviews, but yes, by all means. Look, I had to get a mover. I was telling Matt I'm moving to another place, not because they chased me out of here, because I'm ready to go. But it's a case of, where do you think I went? I went online to check out the reviews. Right. We all do it. I don't even go out to get a hamburger without going to Yelp. How's that? Yeah. So Matt is right. Yeah, that's a piece of it. It's not the biggest piece, but it can be one of your key stats to measure. So for instance, if he sold 100 jobs and I don't have 5 to 10% positive reviews, you ought to find out how he sold those jobs, or she.
Right. And I know that's a problem that a lot of the guys have had with that, incentivizing their technicians, where it gets to the point where they're just selling stuff because they know they can make money out of it and it's not within the customer's interest.
Yes. So let's stop that for a second. If we have, I'm going to let you keep track of the time. You do not have permission from me to sell anything to a customer that's not in their best interest. That said, you are the total solution provider. Now, I've been on YouTube for 10 minutes. Who do you think knows plumbing better, you or me? Right. The reality is the customer. Now, we can never insult what they've learned online or anything else of that nature, but you're there to protect them against themselves, because they will do stupid stuff. Yeah. Now, I'm not turning a blind eye. If I go downstairs and there's an old valve at the water main, I'm going to make the recommendation to replace it. Now, if you choose not to, and that's your only shutoff, okay, but it's not because I didn't do it. If I see a 15, 20-year-old water heater, I'm going to make a recommendation to replace it, because I have seen too many people suffer with, it is no fun when your water heater blows out. It is no fun. Water is incredibly damaging. Yeah. So is that selling people stuff that they shouldn't get? No, Matt, absolutely not. That's why I teach sales power, and I actually call my sales system ethical selling. Yeah. Because you will get all the money if you ask good questions, shut up, listen long enough to what they are. Now, if they don't want it, so for instance, here warm air heat is a problem, which is people, dry eyes, scratchy throats, very common. So I'll ask, is anybody in the house allergic? Have any problems with dry eyes? And 90% of the time they're going to go, yes. Is that something you want me to come up with a solution for that? And more times than not, they will. They want humidifiers or whatever. So I don't think of myself as selling anybody anything that's not in their best interest. Sorry for going a little off to the side there, but that's a big point. Yeah, that is a really big point. You got to nip it in the bud if you think. That's why I also recommend mystery shoppers. You've heard me talk about that. Yeah. And they can be your relatives or family, anybody that doesn't have the same last name. But yeah, you've got to find out what's going on before that happens. So manager operational financial quick check. That's basically where Ellen sets this meeting up with all the managers across that top line of the org chart, come together and look at this one-page thing that she called a financial quick check. Is the money sorting out the way we had the budget? So she teaches how to do a budget, And then if we don't ever look at our budget, then the budget's not worth the invisible Excel, Google sheet that you put it on.
Mm-hmm.
This is what that's about. It's about making financial decisions in real time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that meeting is. Planning Power Remote, which is what I have with my clients, is sometimes it's good to have a round table, an outside source, somebody not even necessarily your industry, but this is what I do for clients is I have a meeting with them, and here's what I do with them.
Gotcha.
Let's go through the top 5.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because we're not talking about anything until we know what's happened with the top 5.
Yeah.
So the financial manager, which is another role that Ellen and I both believe that a manager owner never gets to leave because the money's too important, is they're looking at the end of the month checklist. They want to know is money in the bank, who owes what money, how old the money is. So there's a series of things to check off on that.
Mm-hmm.
Technical development trade training is, which she's talking about my training is I got tired of the retreads in the industry, and I just finally created my own. Took apprentices, not like legal, but young, willing people that I could train skills to. And so I made them into apprentices to junior techs to senior techs to field supervisor. And then they ran on my branches and different places that I own. So I still teach the same method. And that is centered around manuals and a working training center. And if you don't have a working training center, use your house, donate your labor, whatever you think you got to do. But at the end of it, there's only so many techs out there. And having been to Sydney, I know this is a problem. And it's not different than any other city here. You're trying to steal each other's labor and hope you find somebody good. The problem is you don't get to pick who you hire. You get the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So I want young, willing people that I can put them out in the field, get some training from them, just like I got, and then bring them into the class and the training and teach them the sales, operation, technical, if they're going to be a service tech, communications, operation, technical, if they're going to be an installer. And then those have always been the best people. And all of the best fast grower, long staying clients of mine have all followed that same model. Absolutely same thing.
Brilliant.
So, yep. And the last one is just a company-wide strategic financial update meetings. Basically just, we wanted to have our company go from 2 million to 4 million. How did we do? So it's just, some people use like a graphic thermometer, and they just split it up and see where they are. So yeah.
And how often do you run that one?
That one's typically every quarter. Yep.
Okay.
Every month, every quarter, you can, just kind of know where you are. Depends on how you've divided up the contest.
So I mean, it's a lot of meetings, right?
It is a lot of meetings, but thank you for doing that. Thank you so much. Because when I give I used to give guys like 10 pages, they go, whoa. I go, first of all, the daily meeting is 5 minutes.
Right.
One-to-one meetings are 5 minutes once a week. Most of these there's daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly meetings. So when you see the whole list, don't freak out. Mm-hmm. Don't freak out. And if you run a 20-minute meeting or a 15-minute meeting where you're not running a meeting and you use an agenda once a week, it will be the best time and money that you've ever spent.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. So moving down.
So these are the actual, I shared this with Matt. We put our agendas right here. There's nothing for you to invent.
Okay.
You are welcome to edit this thing to do whatever it is, but this, just like it says here.
Okay,
if I
cool.
my calendar, you're going to see that meeting. Yep. It's right there. And it tells you who should be attending, me. And what is it that I'm doing? And here's what Ellen likes what I always talk about right there, Matt. Roll up a little bit. This thing right here, see where it says notes? I got this habit from years ago, is that no matter what time I finished my day, whether it was 4 a.m., I didn't go to bed, so I looked at my calendar and did it feel good. Didn't do it, still need to do it, move it. Didn't do it, who am I kidding? I've been doing this forever. So now I have to decide, do I delete it? Do I delegate it? Do I outsource it? What do I do with it? And then I update my calendar. These are really big things that I do on a regular basis.
Yeah, right. I like it.
So these are the agendas again for the daily meeting. This is, like I said, 15 minutes.
So this basically runs through the agendas for everything above here, right?
Yes.
Okay. So everyone goes, oh, look at all this stuff. How does this work? Then this basically tells them how they can do it.
Yep. And everybody is not in every meeting. They
Right.
shouldn't be. Only
Right.
the right people are in it. So all of this is what you're seeing here. I've
Yeah.
shared a lot here with you.
Yeah. No, it's great, and I mean I encourage, I suppose, the listeners out there or the viewers to definitely just go and get hold of this document and just apply it. I mean, that's the most important thing you can do. Off the back, of course, of reading the book.
I would say, by the way, Matt, and I didn't rehearse it, but I would say I read, when I put that book together, just so that you're clear, I not only from my 25-year career, but also working 60 years with other contractors, but I've been writing articles. I have 250 articles at a minimum, and I can't even count how many blogs I had. So when I hired Helena, who Matt knows, Helena was an editor. She goes, if you have all that stuff, what do you need me for? And I said, I've got 250 of my kids in the audience, and they're all saying, pick me. Yeah, and it would look like a ransom note. And thankfully, Helena came in and put a spline to it. But I was insistent to her, Matt, is that we as contractors are busy, and a big fat book is not what I want. I could trust me, making a big fat book is the easiest thing to do.
Right.
Making it small
That's the
was
challenge.
the toughest challenge. Yes, that is the toughest challenge. And then I went to do the audio for it. And I'm thinking, oh, it's a thin book. It won't take that long. It's 2.5 hours of these velvet tones
Right.
that you can listen to as you're driving in Sydney traffic or wherever you guys drive. Because I know the traffic you guys got.
Yeah.
You got monumental traffic. So whatever it is, if you're an Audible guy, if you're a digital download device or a paperback, it's well worth the read. Not because I wrote it, but I honestly, Matt knows me well enough. I struggled. I was lucky. I got to tell you, I was very lucky because I was going to be a dead rich guy was never my goal.
Right.
And for great mentors like Dan, like Ellen, and my dad was great. Sarah Milo, a lot of great people came into my life, and I fervently believe that if you've been given a gift, it's your obligation to give back. I don't want to sound like a holy roller. But yes, can you hear me? Are you hearing me, folks? Yeah, no, I do know that if you read this and apply yourself at all, it's going to make a big difference for you, because I just had enough experience with every place I've done it, and I've done my best to put in this. And I said there's more tools coming, but you know what? At the end of it, you got to pick up the toolbox, my friends.
Exactly right. And so, Al, just I suppose I'm conscious of the time that you've invested already with us, and for the listeners out there or the viewers, where can people get hold of the book? What's the best place to get it? I'll have this PDF available through the siteshed.com so they can get it, and the links to whatever. But is it through Amazon?
I would say that you're welcome to go to my website. There's a lot of great blogs and information there, and we've set it up so that you can think of it as a great library, because I've been putting that stuff out there. But for the book itself, whether you buy the paperback, whether you buy the the digital ebook, or in this case Audible, so I would say Amazon is your best friend, especially because shipping and everything else that you have. My recommendation is go right to Amazon. They will direct you back. There's a link to go and get the bonus content.
Yes.
Just like this, there's a really good stuff that goes with it. It doesn't supplant that. You got to know the stuff first to apply the tools that are shared within that bonus thing.
And I actually went through those bonus materials yesterday, and they're brilliant. They're so good.
Thank you.
So
I've been at it a while.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, cool. And so, guys, what I'm going to do also is, as I mentioned before, off the back of Al helping me with this meeting structure, I've created a bit of a framework which anyone's welcome to. I'll put a link to this in the show notes as well. If you want to come along, you just need to click on make a copy. And Al, if you want me to refine this, by all means, I'll happily do so. But I've got links to all Al's websites and stuff. His meeting manifesto and whatnot in here. You can basically click on this and make it your own. You're more than welcome to do that. So I'll put some more links and stuff in there to the YouTube, to the, sorry, not YouTube, what do you call it? Amazon book page, of course, because you really need to read this first, guys. It is well worth it. And as Al said, it'll take you a few hours.
But I also agree with Matt, by the way. It was designed to read more than once.
Right.
And how much time we got left?
Hey, man, we got all day.
Okay, well, I'm going to give a quick story. So Ellen Rohr, my good friend, sends me a Christmas gift, a box, I was going to say a couple of years ago, but DVDs that I was supposed to plug in my car and listen to. And it was on sales. And I said to myself, are you kidding me? All the years of my doing sales, she sends me sales training. So I plugged the first DVD in that, and the guy says, if you buy this set and you don't listen to it 6 times, you wasted your money. And I'm going, whatever. So then I'm listening to this stuff, and I'm going, I do that. And then I go, I do that too. And then I go through the whole thing at the end, and then the voice was in my head about you got to listen to it 6 times, and I plug it in the next time, Matt. And this is what I start doing. I go, I used to do that.
Right.
I used to do that too. And I got humbled in a hurry, because whether you do or you don't, I had to let it washing over me. It got me redirected back to and I learned some great stuff out of it too. So yeah, I'm going to tell you, if you're going to buy the book, read the book, do yourself a favor, carve out time to get to read or listen to it twice, and you'll be well served.
And I think as well, as powerful as it is to be able to listen to it, I think it also does serve you quite well to sit down with a cup of coffee for 20 minutes in the morning and actually read through a book, because there's certain things, you can highlight within books that you just can't do when you're listening, or, if the phone rings, or like there's a bit of power in that. I think like it sort of resonates on a more of a conscious level.
It does. The eye-hand connection as text, we know how powerful that is. So what Matt is speaking to is that is the same thing with the book.
Right. All right, Al, I want to thank you for your time. I know it's getting late over there, so much appreciated. We'll let you get back to Natalie.
Yep. Say Amanda for me. All right, guys. Have a great year. Good talking to you all.
Rock and roll.